Okay, I thought I'd show you guys how I put a 1 or 2 player start button in my 8bitdo into that hole right there. I'm doing over talk here, so the timing of all this might not be perfect. But anyway, this is how I did the first one. You see the 1 player button, and some guys wanted to see how it was done, so here you go for the 1 or 2 people who want to see how this is done. You're going to need a few things. You're going to need a screwdriver, a wire clipper, a splicer. You're going to need some plumber's tape. That one thing was a 1 1/8 wood boring drill bit, and then obviously a drill. You're going to need these connectors for the wires to the microswitches. The ones that come with the 8bitdo are smaller, so you're going to have 2 of the larger ones that go on these say hat buttons, X Arcade buttons. You can see the difference in the size, so you're going to have to cut it, splice it, and put that one on. That's the microswitch, obviously, that'll go on. That fits into the button. So that's why you're going to need to splice that wire from the 8bitdo and change the connectors. Okay, so here's why, because this is the problem, is look how small that start button is as compared to the regular buttons that go in there. That's where that small button's going in right there. So in order to fit a regular size button in there, some drilling is required. As you see on the back, that's where I did my initial modification with the X Arcade joystick. Because it sticks out, I had to cut a hole in there, which is fine, because then I can change from 4 bracketed to 8 bracketed easily if I want to on the X Arcade. So here we go. Let's start. Take the screws out, take the plate off. That should be pretty easy. And then we're going to pop out the button. Make sure you save those screws that you pull out of there. You don't want to lose them. So you pull the pins out of the button, the current start button, and then you're going to squeeze the clips together on the button, the start button, and push it back through the other way. It comes right out very easily, and you won't need that anymore. But you can see how the prongs are different on that and smaller. Okay, so the hole looks pretty big, but if you look inside it, you can see that there's an inset, and that's what's really causing the problem in order to fit the regular button in there, and that's what has to be drilled out. So we're going to move some of these wires and clean it up, but you can see also that the wires are very short that lead to that. So you're going to have one chance basically to split it, to cut this wire and splice it and put the new connectors on. Otherwise, you're going to have to do some more splicing and extend the wire. So this is the button. It doesn't fit, obviously. And also that piece right there, this is why we're going to need to drill that out, and that's why you see the my Dremel right there, because I'm gonna have to cut that off, and I'll show you why in a bit. But that was the headache of this whole project. So let's make some room to work here. I'm just gonna start disconnecting stuff, get the wires out of the way so I don't cut anything when I use the Dremel. I'm gonna take the cable out right there and move it. Okay, then I'm gonna take out the yellow button. That's a Sanwa button. Pop that thing, squeeze, pops right out. And then I'm going to take out this one button. Now, you guys, this is an X Arcade button. This is a HAP type, JAMA, whatever button in there. So I'm going to pop out the microswitch. I did this modification in another video, so this, I wanted to see if I could get one of these types of buttons in there. It's a little more difficult, and you'll see why in a little bit, but I'm just going to unscrew that and take that one out, and then I should have enough room to work in here on it. But if you didn't do this part, obviously you just pop that Sanwa type button that they came with. They weren't Sanwa, but they were knockoffs on the 8bitdo, but those buttons were pretty good. Okay, So there's that part we're going to have to remove eventually. We're going to get rid of all these wires, move them out of the way. And we're going to prep for our drilling. And again, you're going to need a 1 1/8 wood boring drill bit. You're going to put it in there and drill out the hole. And you're going to be surprised how nice this comes out. You know, obviously you don't want to crack the frame, but so you go really slow here, and you just slowly, you know, turn the drill the right way. Obviously, you just slowly drill through and just go real slow. And once it starts, you know, it's going to catch a little bit. A couple times it caught on me, which is fine. You know, just back it out and keep drilling. But you can see it's so, you're going to see here it comes out perfect actually after you're done drilling. There's no rough edges. There's no nothing. It's really, really nice. Okay, looks like I'm done. Pull the dust off and clean it up, and all we really did was cut out that middle part, and it looks really good. And now you just drop the button in. Now, again, this is why I'm telling you the hat buttons, you know, X Arcade buttons, there's a little play in them. And that's why I didn't switch out all my other buttons. So I'm going to show you what I did to get rid of the play. I just put some plumber's tape around the top part in order to just, you know, make it sit flush. And then obviously the plumber's tape you can still screw over it because it's real thin, but you kind of want to get the top part only on here. So once you do that, you drop it in, and it won't have that wiggle. So yeah, you just drop it in and the wiggle's gone, which is great. Okay, so that solves that issue. Now, the issue that where you got to cut out this thing with the Dremel is right there, that plastic piece, because that won't fit. The screw cap that goes over the button won't fit because it's in the way. See right there, that thing's in the way. But we'll get back to that on that. We'll do that last. The next thing I'm going to do is splice these wires that led to that, so we can connect the microswitch. And again, you don't have a lot of extra wire with the distance from these wires to the start button. So it's one cut and one splice. Otherwise, like I said, you'll be splicing the wires and adding extra wire, and you really don't want to do that. So in this one, you know, I'm using my wire snippers, and I can't really pull off they did a really good job actually of putting those things on. I got to cut it off at the end. Okay. Then I'm going to take, maybe 1/4 of an inch, not much more, because you don't really have that much to work with. So you're going to use an 832 hole on, if you have those wire cutters right there. And it came off really nice. I'm going to twist it up. And then when I have fixed these into the connector, you know, obviously there's the rubber top first, and when I fix them to the connector, I curve it like a U when I don't have a lot to work with. There's a couple ways to do it, but I got to open up the clip there just so I could get it in there first. But I curve the top like a U there, the wire part, and then kind of, when I clamp it down, it gets both sides of the clamp, which gives it a better hold. So put that in there, clamp it down, put the rubber part over. And that one's done. Then I'm just going to do the other one, same thing. I'm going to cut, use the 830 seconds, cut a little bit off. And then do the same thing. So with this wire, you barely have enough room to get to the button. So, and once you do this, there's basically no going back to the other one. You don't want to splice it again and put the old connector in the old button. Well, you can't because you drilled out the hole. So there's no going back, kind of. So boom, put the button in, but we'd want to put that on. But like I said, that thing's in the way. So what do we got to do? We got to remove that, okay? Because that's holding us back right now. So here's how you do that. Here's the way I did it. I'm sure people have different tools. But again, this is where I just use the Dremel tool. You got to make a few cuts because the Dremel tool, obviously the base of it gets in the way. So you cut off like ½ an inch, cut off another ½ an inch, and then, and just trim it up at the end to make it flat. So, but you got to be careful here. You don't hit anything. So you don't want to cut any other wires. So that's why I moved all the other stuff. So you have to hold that thing firm. So make one cut, and make another cut, and then you just kind of flatten it out up against the base, trim it up, make a cut, make it look all flat, neat. You really don't need that piece. I don't know. I mean, I guess it gives you some stability, but you'll be fine without it. So now that fits in there good. You got that plumber's tape to kind of give it a solid position. And we're going to spin the nut back over that. And fix it in there. Make sure it's straight. And works well now. Obviously we don't have the microswitch in yet in the connectors, but now we're going to start piecing this thing back together. And then when we put the top on, or the bottom on, excuse me, I guess, there's going to be a little issue because that microswitch sticks out just a hair from the depth of the whole thing. It's just a fraction, protrudes out when that microswitch is in there. And that's why I didn't really want to do all the other buttons with those microswitches. And I could have, but, because I came up with a solution, but it's not the best solution, so... but I had to do it here now anyway, so I could have changed out all the buttons. So we're going to put everything back together. We're going to put the cable back. We're going to put that other XRK button back in that I took out. Put the microswitch back on that one. Then we're going to pop the yellow button in. Those just snap right in. They're so much easier. But I don't like them as much as the Happer and JAMA or XRK type. So, okay, so everything's back in. Start connecting the wires. I'm going to connect the wires to the start button. squares that were in the way back. Start moving some stuff out of the way. And we're good to go. But like, this is the part I said was the problem, is that micro switch sticks up just a fraction too high. So what I did is I put some spacers in between the plate and the base, and it's just a couple, it's basically a couple washers, you know, just to give you a not even an eighth of an inch maybe, you know, just spacing, which this is kind of a pain in the butt, but because you don't have that long of a screw to screw back into the plastic frame, so you don't have much to work with. But you know, if you don't want the thing banging on the micro switch, then you gotta, oh, you could cut out a hole there like I did with the X Arcade joystick, you could, but that frame is really hard. But there you go, look, push the start button, you can see it blinking. Hold the start button down, turns off. It must have worked. So there's my 2-player joystick and my 1-player joystick. So that's how you do it right there. Is it worth it? I don't know. It's a lot of work.